City Life. Today, we once again mobilized our gathering for a Serve Day to get out and serve at multiple locations, all up and down the peninsula. We came alongside Thrive Peninsula's food pantry, Echo Family Care's diaper distribution, as well as the Aqueduct Boys and Girls Club as they kick off another school year. But as we always do, we're capping it off right here online with a Fifth Saturday conversation. Taking responsibility for our own emotional healing and cultivating emotionally healthy spirituality is a big step for anyone. And in this video from the Fifth Saturday archives, Pastor Fred sat down with two therapists to talk about therapy's important role in growing both emotionally and spiritually. Let's listen together.
Hey, City Life Church, we just want to say thank you for another great Saturday. If you're watching this, then I trust that you were at one of our outreaches as part of our Fifth Saturday initiative, making Jesus easy to find in the 757. And so this is part of our ongoing, what we're calling our Fifth Saturday sermon series, where we are discussing some things that we feel are very important to you and to us. And today is no different as we have a conversation about therapy, what it is, what it isn't, and maybe breaking down some biases and some fears that you might have, but then also just answering some practical questions that maybe you've been carrying around. So we have brought in some resident experts. So we have Jennifer Muro, who many of you know, but then we also have one of her colleagues, Shelby DuBois.
Shelby DuBois.
Hi. And so
Thanks for having me.
Let each of you say a little hello and maybe a little bit about what you do, and then we'll dig into some questions.
Yeah. Well, I'm Jennifer Muro. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and outpatient therapist with Genesis Counseling Center. I'm also a registered play therapist, and so play therapy is for age 2 to 99, but I do specialize in kids, so that's kind of my heart.
Yeah. Good. So again, I'm Shelby DuBois. I'm licensed marriage and family therapist and the clinical director of Genesis Counseling Center. My interests are working with families, adolescents. I have some specializations in eating disorder work and deep interest in what we call biopsychosocial spiritual health. So really integrating the whole person into the counsel.
We should come back to that term and break that down, right? Because there's a lot in there.
There's a lot of pieces.
Yes,
of
there's a lot of
words
pieces that are important.
there.
important. So we're big fans of Genesis Counseling. We've been referring people in our congregation to Genesis for many, many years. And we were talking earlier, just before this conversation, about the importance of churches differentiating between pastoral care and therapy. And so we want to make sure that we continue to be a church that helps people understand the difference between those two and the importance of both of them working together. Yeah. And so thank you both for being here, sharing part of your day with us. So let's start with the question of what therapy is not. Yeah. So maybe we could start there, and each of you could just speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, it's not a fix.
Okay.
It's not the end all be all. Mm-hmm. You think about, like you shared your specialization as individuals, we have many parts, right? And so treatment for a whole person is not one thing. Yep. You don't eat just salad and think you're going to fix everything physical about yourself. And so therapy is not the end all. It's not just a fix. And I would say therapy is not just the 45 minutes that you're in somebody's office, whether it's multiple times a week or every week or biweekly. It's what you take out of that 45 minutes and the work you're willing to do outside of that office. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say just thinking about some of the stereotypes that exist about therapy to address what it is not. Good therapy is not someone just looking at you saying, and how do you feel about that? And then taking notes while you stare at their ceiling. You know, that's kind of popular on sitcoms, but that's not how counseling really works. I think Jen's answer was fantastic in terms of, essentially, like most things in life, we sort of get out what we put in. Right. Yeah, so a therapist is not psychic. Right. Yep. She or he is not a magician. Yeah. Right, but they are there to support you, to give you a safe place to untangle what's going on in your mind and to give thoughts and suggestions and make observations about what you bring.
Yeah. Yeah, it's And let's talk a little bit about too the difference, because this isn't our conversation today. Psychiatric care, right, is then another field. Is that right?
Yeah.
So if someone were to need medication, if there's a chemical imbalance of some kind, how does that work through Genesis? Do you have a psychiatrist that's on staff? Do you refer? How does that work?
I can jump on that.
Right.
So, yeah, a lot of people come to us with that question. I'm glad you threw it out there. Psychiatry is medication, right?
Yes.
So, your psychiatrist or your nurse practitioner who is a prescriber will speak with you long enough to assess what type of medication may benefit you. And that is pretty much the extent of their work, right? It's getting the medication piece right. Not everyone needs a psychiatrist, right? But at Genesis, if someone needs a psychiatrist, we do have 3 nurse practitioners at this point who prescribe medication, and we can refer out in the community. And, that's up to the individual. Therapists are typically pretty reticent to say, you need medication.
Right.
But what we may do is say, have you thought about medication?
Yes.
Would you like to maybe have a conversation with the prescriber to see if that could benefit you?
Yeah.
Because therapists are trained to maybe recognize some of the cues as if there are chemical imbalances, right? Because we try to help people remember that we believe God made us, right? And he chose how he was going to make us, and he made us a ball of chemicals, right? I mean, he made us with brain chemistry. And so sometimes that's out of balance, and you can't fight that. It needs help. So,
and I love that that's coming from the leadership of churches more and more now, because the brain is an organ. It's a magnificent organ.
That's right.
But it's an organ, and we would never shame somebody for needing
we don't tell someone who has
insulin.
diabetes, right?
Right.
Don't take insulin.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like too that you said that therapy isn't a fix, because we're used to, if I'm not feeling well, right? If I have strep throat, I go to the doctor, he gives me a prescription, I take the prescription, and then I get better. But therapy is not that. It's an ongoing journey.
Right. So, there's multiple systems at play there.
So let's break down that term that you used, because it was very specific in the way you presented it. So I feel like that's instructive. So let's break that down, and then tell me what each part of that term means.
Yeah, sure. So biopsychosocial spiritual approach.
Right? You should write that down if you're taking notes.
So bio is in biological,
Okay.
right?
Which is what we talked a little bit about, the brain's an organ.
Yes, right. And also, essentially, how are you taking care of yourself? Because as the research is becoming clearer and clearer on, if we are not feeding ourselves appropriately, if we're not resting, if we aren't getting movement, we are going to suffer in terms of mood.
That's really good.
This is no longer
There's
arguable.
a connection.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Psycho is psychological. That's what everybody's expecting to hear about today, I imagine, right? And what we're going to continue to converse about.
Yes.
Social is our systems. What is our community? What's our family life like? What are our friendships like? What is our church family life like? So it's looking at the social settings in which we exist. And then spiritual, because another thing that research is becoming clear on, praise the Lord, is that people with a strong faith fare better across the board in terms of their mental health. Their trauma resiliency is better. Their bounce back or even resistance to more severe forms of mood disorder are better for people with a strong faith life.
And community.
Right, and those go together, right? Absolutely, Jen. And so, all of these things create how we're feeling, how we're doing as a person. So I think that one of the things Jennifer and I share as a passion, though we might call it slightly different things, is you really have to look at everything going on with a person, right? Because we're not so simple, and so we try to take a more sort of holistic view to mental health.
So when somebody is, let's say, dipping their toe in the water, so to speak, for a therapy experience, the expectation is that a a trained, gifted therapist is going to look at all those many facets and help them look at all those many facets because they're not individually compartmentalized. They're all affecting. There's a causal relationship, right?
That's right.
That exists between those.
We in and of ourselves are a system.
Yes.
Right. We're a system.
Oh, this is really
and then
good.
systems around us.
That's right.
Yep.
Because when people think of therapy, I think maybe there's this bias. I'm going to go talk to somebody about my problems. I'm going to feel better. Maybe they're going to give me some answers, right, that I've been looking for. But it's much more complicated than that.
Oh, absolutely.
So I like that idea that we are a system that needs assessment and maybe some help.
And if I could piggyback
Yes.
off that, I hope that's a shame-reducing concept
Good.
for people.
Yes.
In terms of, we're sort of in this McFix society, right? Everything's supposed to be really fast. Just Google it, do better, or whatever,
Yes.
right? But the truth is, we human beings are complex, amazing creations.
Yeah.
We always have been. We always will be.
Yeah.
And so when we are suffering, whether it's depression, relational issues, or whatever, the quote answer to that suffering is not going to be a one-shot thing like you're speaking of. And what I hope people take from that is if it takes a while to feel better, to function better, that's okay.
It's hard
You're
work.
getting there, right? And there's no shame to it taking some time. Right? It means you're working and it means you're persistent.
Yeah.
No, part of that's complicated by American culture, right? There's this idea of a drive towards efficiency. There's this idea of we want to fix problems. We want to move forward. We're success driven, and sometimes those are not healthy contexts, right? For healing in our hearts.
Oh, yeah. I would say very seldom.
Yeah.
You know, frequently in therapy, you've got to be willing to go backwards to be able to go forwards.
Because we want whole person healing. We want, and to be clear, we want people to feel better.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That we all have the same goal.
Yeah.
So, and we believe in people's ability to get there. And
Yes, that's really good.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
That's
we just
good.
don't want people thinking it's like a aha moment.
Yes.
And then you're like cured.
Right.
Yeah.
It will be a process. And during that process, we're getting stronger and stronger as humans.
It's a powerful thing for an individual who feels broken to sit in a room with someone who has faith in them, right? What you just said, that you as therapists, you believe that a person has the inherent ability to get better. And that's a powerful thing for someone to experience. And a lot of people don't have that. They don't have the experience of sitting in a room with someone who cares about them and looks them in the eye and believes that they can get better.
Yeah. I would say that's a privilege for me. I know you feel the same, is to show up every day and feel like I can hold a place in somebody's life in a room to say, I believe in you and I'm going to sit here with you and take these steps with you until you believe in yourself the same way that I believe in you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, let's dig into some of these questions. So why do you think there is a cultural stigma, specifically in America? And then I would say, well, let's do the church second.
Yeah.
But let's do the broader, I feel like there's an American cultural stigma against therapy. Why as practitioners, why do we think that is?
I think family secrets come into play.
Okay.
Might touch a nerve with a few people, but
There's a striving need for privacy.
Yeah, there's a need for what goes on in our house and our family is for us. We don't tell people our dysfunction, right? Like we fix ourselves and we walk out the door a united front, and so that doesn't work in therapy, right? Because you do have to look at overall person, and
so you have to
I
be
would
willing to
say,
talk about things that maybe culturally you've been told we don't share
talk
those
about
secrets.
those things. Right. And I would say that's a big speed bump for adolescents when they come into my office. Frequently, there's a misconception. I would say with families that might bring a adolescent in and say, here, fix my kid, as if they're not going to have to be involved.
Yeah.
It's a family affair. But it's hard when there's a presentation of family secrets. We don't tell about all the things. We can tell about your grades.
Yeah.
And we can tell about how, you're being disobedient at home or you're isolating children at home, but we're not going to tell about all the things in the closet. I think that plays into American culture.
Absolutely. And I think in different regions of the country, that's stronger. I think amongst different cultural groups, that's stronger. And, just being aware of that and, us as therapists, being aware how that might take play, like you're speaking to, and for people listening to think about what were you maybe taught about privacy and secrets. And then I think another part in American culture is self-sufficiency.
Yes, it is.
Right?
We're just going to try harder,
I can do
pull
it.
ourselves up by our bootstraps.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I think for a long time, seeking help through therapy was viewed as a weakness.
Yeah.
Why can't you figure that out yourself?
That's good.
And isn't that really the opposite of what we in the faith stand for? Right. Yeah.
Right.
And
I think there's the something's wrong with me or you has
You're
been
broken.
Yeah, that's been the presentation of therapy. You go to therapy if something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Instead of you need a little bit of extra support with some tools to get through this season.
Right.
Yeah.
So then maybe we could say, let's talk about this. There's a range for people because some people are coming because they do feel broken.
Yeah.
They feel fractured.
Yeah.
And then what we're saying is, well, if that's on this end of the spectrum where maybe they're finding it even difficult to even function every day, right? Just there's a real fracturing of their soul. Yeah. But there's a spectrum to what you just said, Jennifer, where maybe just someone needs a little extra help to deal with something that they're facing, that therapy can be helpful for anything, those two and everything in between.
Absolutely. I would say, when you think of that, it's almost like the maybe two different stained glass windows. Like one stained glass window, maybe 5 fractured pieces of glass, and another maybe 2,000.
Sure.
Right? Neither are too broken, and both are beautiful.
One might just need a little Windex on it.
Yeah, a little Windex on here. The next one might need a little bit more.
Some repair.
Yeah. But I like what you said. They're both beautiful, right? And it's never, it's never beyond repair, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, because nobody chooses to have their panes of glass broken.
So let's pivot there a little bit. If let's say someone's watching this and they know someone who they think needs therapy and isn't getting the help, because we've been talking a little bit about maybe helping the person overcome their own personal reticence to ask for help. What kind of advice would you give to someone who can encourage someone who needs help? Right, so the person who maybe they're not in a place where they feel like they need some help, but maybe their spouse does, their neighbor does, a coworker, a friend, a child. How would you recommend that person broach that conversation with that individual to say, have you ever thought about? So
I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
So what I encourage people to do is to lead with love, so to speak. So it would sound something like,
so good.
Fred, I just noticed lately you don't seem happy.
Yeah.
You're grumpy with this situation, you're moping around, you're sleeping in until noon. That's not like you, right? Or Jen, you just seem really anxious lately. I've been concerned about you. And so just coming from that place of, I care about you, and this is what I see.
Yeah.
And then shifting to that sort of we pronoun use. What can we do to help you?
Yeah.
What can we do? I'm on your team. What can we do
Curiosity.
to help you feel better?
I think wondering and curiosity is a good thing to remember.
Spoken like an excellent play therapist.
Love and curiosity.
Yeah.
I wonder if this could help.
That's
or
right.
I wonder what would help instead of, you need to go to therapy.
And is there a different word? So like, let's say a person just, is therapy the right word? So let's say you're having that conversation, they're doing all the right things, and they're at the point where they want to recommend help. Do they use the T word, or is there another word that feels and sounds less clinical? And maybe there isn't. Maybe you just have to say what it is. But how do you help people with that?
I think that's cultural. Depending on your upbringing, your surroundings. I think therapy does sound a little more clinical than counseling.
Sure.
Because we all grew up going to school where there's a school counselor.
No,
right?
absolutely.
Not a big deal.
So,
you know?
so it could be a question of you ever thought about talking with someone?
Or yeah, it doesn't have to be a title.
Have you
Ever thought about
would
talking
you be
with
open
someone?
to talking with someone? That could be a...
And I think that's a really safe way to go. But, counseling does tend to carry a little bit less stigma as a word than therapy or psychotherapy. Please don't say you need a shrink. Let's don't do that.
Right?
Let's don't do
No,
that.
but let's not get our vernacular from movies and books and television. And let me just pause here too, because if you're watching this and maybe we're already striking a chord with you, right? There's that you might be sitting in a room with someone who's tearing up right now. Is that we just want you to know that this is a safe place and that we're people that you can reach out to. Like if you call City Life Church your home, reaching out to me or any of our staff, or even reaching out to Jennifer, that we will help you get to the right people, even if we're not the right people to help you. But we just want to pause for a moment and say, you don't have to feel alone and you don't have to suffer in silence. So
that step, I think, is the most daunting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even when you settle the storm inside that, okay, I'm ready. That next step is the hardest. Yeah.
So let's go a little bit farther in the bias. There's the American cultural bias, but then there's the American evangelical bias. How have you seen that as a practitioner? What are the obstacles that people have as people of faith? Because you would think if you're a person of faith, that would be an on-ramp to getting help. And oftentimes it's a barrier. And so why do we think that is? Or what have you seen?
Can't pray it away.
You cannot.
Should be able to pray everything away.
Faith, we're just stronger. You would not be depressed. So those are the barriers, right? Believing or perpetuating this belief that if we just prayed more, if our faith were stronger, etc., that we wouldn't need counseling. And therefore it is shameful, right, to go and get professional support. And what I do want to say that I think is a positive is I've been at this for 18 years now. And I've seen that stigma decrease.
Good.
And I'm very excited about that. I think that seeking counseling is becoming more normalized, including in the churches, thanks to, honestly, organizations like City Life or, other churches that are willing to say, let's normalize this and let's not conflate, issues of faith with issues of mental health.
I feel like part of being a longtime member of clergy, I feel like one of the reasons why churches have been reluctant historically is because pastors oftentimes have ego problems, right? And so there is this reluctance for pastors to acknowledge that I don't have what's needed to help you, right? And so, which is unfortunate, right? Our egos are not supposed to get in the way of helping people. And so I think that's part of it. I think another piece of it is that oftentimes faith is in conflict with maybe certain models for understanding the human psyche, right? And so talk a little bit about that, about Genesis counseling being friendly to people that have a biblical worldview, right? Because not everybody who's a therapist has a biblical worldview or has biblical values. Like I remember a young military gentleman coming to me years ago who was seeing an on-base counselor. They were having marriage problems and he was struggling with some flirtations. And the advice that was given to him, well, you should just give in to that and get over it and move on with your marriage, right? And so, which I'm appalled by that. But then I realized if that person doesn't have a biblical worldview, if they don't have a sense of virtue and value that's biblically based, then maybe that's good advice for them,
right?
Even though we know it's destructive, right? So tell me about how does Genesis deal with this idea of we recognize that science is real, but we also recognize the Bible is true. How do you navigate the tension that holds sometimes?
I got a cough before we move on. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Everybody watching feels your pain because we're all in Virginia together in December.
That's valid.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yesterday it's 60, today it's 40.
So I think the basis of Genesis is to be the answer to that question in a way, at least locally, and to support other Christian therapists and Christian counseling centers. Because overall, like if we look at psychologists, for example, an overwhelming number of psychologists are agnostic or atheist.
Right.
We don't have strong numbers that I'm aware of for social workers, counselors, and MFTs, but I would imagine,
Right.
There's a lot of folks with those licensures serving people that are not active Christians. So we view the person as a spiritual entity, right? Like you're not like you're a soul coming to us, right? So we view it as like where we embrace soul care, and so with science, yes, is real, and there is nothing science is telling us that is contradicting the Bible in a way that should be influencing our work, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. So I think when we try to put any of it in a box, it's easy to fall into that.
Yeah.
But when we acknowledge the vastness, right, of both our God and what he's given us for resources and what's in his word and et cetera. And the vastness of knowledge out there, to me, there's really no excuse to fall into the limited thinking.
That's good.
But at Genesis, we do have a Christian worldview. So when people come to us, they hopefully would feel safe that we're not going to give them that sort of advice or say, forget your faith or, anything like that. Like we pray with clients, we pray for clients in our case reviews and our team meetings. And we meet people where they are because I'm obviously not going to be the same denomination as every client that I see or even close to it. And honestly, that's pretty much irrelevant.
Right.
We are trained, right?
Yeah,
if we're doing our job well, we are genuinely meeting people where they are. So, I have had over the years people on my caseload that range from atheist, Hindu, agnostic, Catholic nun, pastors, charismatics, all sorts of evangelical, so, and I think that's healthy, right? That's healthy. So one of the things that our leadership has said to us at Genesis that I love, that's sort of an anchor statement for our organization, is you will never look in the eye of somebody that God doesn't love.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
That's really good.
Right. So keeping that in mind, like it's a privilege and a responsibility to view that person as belonging to God first and foremost.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
Part of your journey in therapy is to be willing to disclose secrets. Talk to them a little bit. Right? Let's assume that people don't know. Talk to us about privacy. So someone divulges secrets, right? Things that they've hidden and protected, right? Sometimes generationally. How does that work in a therapy setting as far as privacy is concerned?
So I mean, my spill to clients is that we're mandated reporters, and so there's conditions where privacy, we have to lay it down. And that would be, if a client, and I come from a perspective of children, but my spill is if you're hurting yourself, you're going to hurt somebody or somebody is hurting you.
Yep.
And that's where privacy has to be laid down.
Correct.
Beyond that, your privacy is in the walls of whatever.
It's protected.
It absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's protected. Yeah.
Go over those again, because I think when people hear mandated reporting, right, their red flags go up. So you said three things.
Three things.
If you're
hurting yourself,
to hurt yourself,
you're a danger to yourself.
You're hurting someone else.
You're going to hurt somebody else, or you are hurting someone else, or somebody is hurting you.
If someone's hurting you.
Yeah. And that's mine with
And that's
kids.
for children and an elderly adult.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the privacy laws and limitations are different for adults.
Correct.
As an adult, if somebody's hurting you, it's up to you whether or not you do anything about it. So I am only going to get involved as a mandated reporter with adults if an adult is abusing or neglecting a child
or an elderly person,
or an elderly person.
Someone vulnerable.
Yes. Or if they are overtly and acutely suicidal. And I want to take a moment to pause on that.
No, let's do that. That's really good.
Because
this is important.
All right, everyone take a deep breath.
Yeah, right.
It's normal to have suicidal ideas and thoughts, especially fleeting when you're depressed, right? Or you're having a hard time. That is not a cause for me as a counselor to call down to the ER, right? So,
or an encouragement to people that you're not
broken beyond repair.
Yes. That a lot of people, when they feel overwhelmed or despair, they're those fleeting thoughts that come and go.
That's our fight or flight sort of mechanism kicking in.
That's our brain. That's an organ doing what it does that sometimes we don't have control over.
That's right. And people carry a lot of shame in that. And speaking of secrets, they're afraid to tell their counselor that because they think, well, you might get me, admitted to a facility and I won't be able to get out, or you're going to tell my family, or et cetera. We only do that if we have to in order to keep you safe or to keep other people safe. So other than that, like Jennifer said, whatever people say in our offices stays right there in our office. We write a little note. We put it in a very secure chart that nobody can get into. And that's that.
Yeah, it's important, right? Because a lot of times people, right, they have these fears. So part of today is helping you maybe dispel some of those. But part of it maybe is reminding people that just because they had a bad experience in getting help in the past doesn't mean that it's going to be bad again.
That's right.
Because not everyone is good at what they do. So there are pastors who shouldn't be pastoring. There are churches that are unhealthy. There are mechanics who are dishonest. There are lawyers who cheat people, right? There are doctors who shouldn't be practicing medicine. But it doesn't mean that we give up on our need for those kinds of services for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
We just acknowledge that there are some people that who do a poor job, right, as a practitioner. But we have to accept that, but not let their tragic mistreatment of us rob us of the care that we need today or tomorrow.
Well, and I would even piggyback on that and say, even short of a tragic mistreatment, I'm a shoe fan. If you know me, I'm a shoe fan. So this is my analogy that I use. Therapists are like shoes. We don't fit everybody. And we are okay. We should be okay with that. We're trained to be okay with that. We're also trained to operate in our area of expertise. And so if you've had an experience in the past that, wasn't gross mistreatment, but maybe just it didn't feel right.
Just wasn't very helpful.
Just wasn't very, don't let that discourage you from trying someone else.
It doesn't mean that therapy doesn't help.
That's correct. And it doesn't mean the next, therapist is going to be the exact same.
That's good. So let's talk about that a little bit. So someone comes for the first time. There's an assessment of well, maybe you tell us. So someone calls for the first time, right?
Let's walk you through.
Walk me through. They pick up the phone, they call Genesis. What's going to happen?
So, and they can even do a chat online if they're nervous to call. You don't have to call anymore. But call or do the chat online or come in, stop by the front desk. The first step is a client care coordinator will get information and start to look for somebody who can see you. If that's not an option, we'll give you some referrals to the community or place folks on a wait list if that's what they prefer. So most counseling centers are going to operate the same way, right? So you call, you get that initial appointment set up, give your insurance information if you're going to utilize your insurance, give your basic demographics.
Because a lot of insurances have copays. Then people might not even realize they have a benefit.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and a little more technical is we are credentialed with different insurances. And so
Just like a doctor's office,
Yeah,
you're in network,
right,
out of
right.
network.
Yep,
That
yep.
translates over.
So when you call a counseling center to include hours, the front desk staff is going to help you work that out. And then you get to the appointment time, right? You come in or you do it virtually. Everywhere is offering telehealth now.
Right.
Some people find that a lot more convenient. Some people want to come in person. So your counselor should be available to match that preference, right? And the assessment is asking, hey, tell me what's going on with you. You know, what brings you into counseling today?
good.
Most of us say something along those lines. We give our
people are coming for
spill.
different
we give our
reasons.
spill.
We give our spill.
Okay.
And then we ask some basic screening questions about what symptoms are you having? You know, what are your chief complaints?
Okay.
We try to get a little bit of background, history, you know, things like, who do you live with? Who did you used to live with?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, is there any health issues you're dealing with? So just getting a basic overview
Understanding all the
of
systems.
the person.
Right?
Just starting to ask
Yeah.
those questions.
That's the
And
first
establishing a comfort. And what Jen was saying, you know, therapists can be like shoes, right? That some are not a good fit for certain people, right? So one of the things that I do, and I know that you do it as well, and I think a lot of us as counselors, therapists, whatever term feels most comfortable. What we do is say, look, I'm glad to meet with you further. Here's what I would see us doing.
Okay.
But please, if this doesn't feel like a good fit for
Okay.
you,
I was going to ask,
whether
what's
it's
the mechanism?
whether it's today it doesn't feel like a good fit or after a couple of sessions, please let me know. And my job will be to help you find somebody who's a better fit as I get to know you.
That's my stipulation at the end of every
So how
initial.
do they say? Because if it's somebody who's, you know, is going to feel really uncomfortable saying that to you, right? In the inside, they're going, this doesn't fit, this doesn't fit, this doesn't fit. But they're like, I can't ever say it, right? Who do they tell? How do they communicate that?
Yeah, I mean, you can if telling us is too hard, you can reach out to the client care coordinators and
And that's fine. And that's what most people do. Most people, if we're being honest, will just, pardon me, they'll smile and say, okay. And the therapist will never know.
That's right.
And then they will call up the client care coordinator or secretary or whomever, you know, handles that for the practice.
That's good.
And they'll say, hey, you know, Pat was not a good fit for me. Can I see somebody else? And we don't bat an eyelash at that.
Absolutely.
No, that's really
It's not a
We
big
try
deal.
to tell people that when we refer here at church, we say it might take a couple of tries to find someone, because chemistry is important, especially if you're talking about private, personal things.
I think the important thing there to remember, if you're on the client end of that, is advocating for yourself. And even though that conversation with that counselor may be difficult to say, I don't think this is going to work, there is still a level of insight that counselor has based on that first evaluation that maybe could help steer you to somebody who might be a better fit, whereas you know, client care coordinators don't have that private information. So it could potentially be worth having that conversation, even though it feels difficult.
Now, we say that to people all the time as pastors, at least here at our church. If we're not the church you're looking for, you know, give us a list of things that you are hoping to find, and we'll give you a list of churches in the area that we trust, pastors that we know, and we will help facilitate, right? Because we want people to get the help that they need and find the communities they need to be a part of. So I want to ask one more question. I want to pivot to kids a little bit specifically. We talked a little bit about what a psychiatrist is, what a therapist is, but some time ago you used the word psychologist, which maybe introduced a new term to people. So tell us a little bit about how is a psychologist different from a licensed therapist?
I'll just real basic.
Okay.
Psychologists typically aren't your long-term care people.
Okay.
You see them for a short period of time for a very specific thing. I'll let you dig into that. But they're not going to be who follows with you long-term. we do have a handful of psychologists who maybe potentially see a small caseload of therapy clients, but they are fulfilling a therapy need with those clients. So
Yeah, sure. So psychologists typically are going to be specializing, at least at Genesis, in assessment. That's typically going to look like full battery psychological testing.
Gotcha.
Not everybody needs that.
Yes.
right.
Yeah, it's pretty time consuming, and so the psychologists are very busy with doing that.
Yeah.
Some of our psychologists carry a small caseload.
Yeah.
And within that, they are, as Jennifer said, functioning as therapists to those individuals on their caseload. So honestly, what all of us with the different licensures do in the room looks pretty much the same.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about that just for a minute. So what are the kinds of situations that a person might be dealing with that will require some type of testing? Yeah. So the psychologist is testing for what?
I'll specifically speak to kids.
Yeah, good.
I refer kids to psychological testing when we're looking to rule out some things, to try to figure out which direction our treatment plan needs to go towards, but also when there's a little extra support needed in the school. Okay. So when families are looking for individualized education plans, you need psychological testing. Yeah. Some of that can be done through the school system, but it's not as comprehensive, I would say. And so whenever the school system at play, the system in the child's life is needing some extra work and they need some individualized help at school, it helps to take that psychological testing paper to the school and say, help.
Gotcha. No,
help.
that's good.
Yeah. And I would say for adults and sometimes for kids, we use it to help us arrive at a really accurate diagnosis.
Yeah, right.
Again, that's not always needed. But sometimes, for example, if somebody has a lot of symptoms that maybe those are looking like adult ADHD symptoms, but we're on the fence, that testing really clears it up.
Yeah.
If we know they're struggling with depression, but we're not so clear, is it...
Are they clinically depressed, like they have a diagnosis?
Like how significant is depression, or is it bipolar type depression? So personality traits, it can uncover that. And then sometimes when people are having issues, say with memory, they've gone back to school, their learning is not working out the way they had hoped. So our psychologists can test for that too. So
part of what we're trying to help people understand is to trust the process, trust the recommendation. So if I go see my doctor and they want me to run some tests, I'm typically okay with that.
Right.
I'm going to do blood work if I have to do the stress tests on the treadmill. Right. I don't have a culture. There's no stigma attached to that. Right. We do testing all the time in the medical field. Right. And so we want to encourage people that if you come and they recommend testing for you, think of it that way. Yeah. That we're here to help. Right. And that testing is going to focus your care.
Right. And for us, there really is no stigma. I mean, we sort of eat, live, and breathe this all the time. Sure. So I think sometimes it doesn't occur to us, they may be a bit sensitive to that suggestion because it's, it's pedestrian to us, right? And so that's, you even saying that is probably a good reminder. But we all share the idea that we want to do the minimum amount of intervention, testing, services that we think a person needs. So if we really advise somebody to do something, we genuinely think it will help.
Right.
The nature of therapy is not to be intrusive. Right. Yeah. So even though I think people are fearing that, right? Yeah. So let's do a little bit more, and then I think we're in the home stretch. Let's talk about children a little bit more. Yeah. What are some observable things that would help equip a parent that would be a trigger for them? Yeah. Maybe my child needs to talk to somebody.
Yeah. So I just want to clear up the last question. I want to go back there for a second. I think that we're in a tricky season where we're trying to determine, specifically with younger kids, if we're dealing with a scenario, is this something that needs attention, or is this an effect of the pandemic? And I would say that's a big benefit to psychological testing.
Right.
You know, is my child really struggling right now because there is something mental health that we really need to address and need to get some tools on board? Or are we dealing with a little setback from the pandemic, from social isolation? So I would say it's never a bad time to have your kid talk to somebody.
No, that's good.
So I would say if the question is in your head, should I reach out to somebody? Why not?
out, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's good.
If therapy doesn't hurt,
Yeah.
it shouldn't hurt.
Right.
I should say it shouldn't hurt. But you know, some red flags: increased sadness, increased anxiousness or anxiety, isolation. In younger kids, it typically can show up in increased headaches and stomach aches. Activities of daily living, is our eating habits changed? Are sleeping habits changing? Has there been some sort of transition in the home? Military, are we getting ready to deploy? Or are we getting ready to move duty stations? Have we just done that?
Because then sometimes therapy is proactive.
Correct.
If you know something big is going to come, then maybe there's some
Yeah.
equipment that can happen through a therapy
Let's
experience
build
that
a
gets you
toolbox
ready.
to take
That's
with
really
you.
really good.
Has there been a new marriage, a recent divorce, you know, loss of somebody to death? I mean, I could go on, but those are the big red flags. Yeah.
And I just wanted to let folks know that we are not interested in keeping people who don't need us, right? So when Jennifer says, hey, it doesn't hurt, bring your child in, please know that she or any of us will say, hey, you know, I met with your little guy here 3 or 4 times, and I really think he's, you know, he's doing well. He's got his coping skills in the bag. He seems to have adjusted to XYZ. So, you know, she or whoever the therapist will say, I don't think that he needs to be seen anymore. Or I think she can go down, you know, to every couple weeks and let's phase out. We are not interested in keeping people longer than they need to be with us.
No, we don't have quotas to meet. I think the benefit there also is that if that's the scenario, you've established rapport with the therapist so that if there is a crisis down the line, you know, there's either already an established relationship with an individual, or at least you've painted a good picture of what good therapy can be.
That's really good.
I'm never going to keep a kid who doesn't need to be there, because the last thing that any of us want to do is mar the experience of therapy for later in life.
And we want to make space, right, for people who are on those wait lists, who are coming in. But I wanted to share something that I've had the privilege of seeing, having been at this a while, that kids that I saw when they were 12, 13, whatever, it has blown me away how many times I will get this call, and it will be this young woman who is now 22 and remember seeing me when she was 13 or 14 and feels safe and wants to come back to counseling and would prefer to see who she already knows. So I just, a word of encouragement to parents, guardians, grandparents, you know, whoever's taking care of kiddos, that getting them comfortable with counseling, it lasts their lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Those are the ones that'll bring you to tears.
Oh, right now, I'm like,
I would say those are the ones that we feel blessed to be a part of. For me, it's I feel like there's a win in the kingdom when a kid finds their voice and they advocate for themselves. Those are the ones that'll, my eyes start watering.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you both for sharing your time, talking about your life calling with us. And then our hope is that this conversation is helping some of you move closer to asking for the help that's readily available to you. And so we just want to reiterate that If you're not sure, if you have questions, if there's questions you're like, oh, I wish they had asked this, then we're easy to get a hold of, and we want to answer the questions that you might have. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing your Saturday with us. Thank you for being a part of this ongoing Fifth Saturday series, and we'll see you next week.